Now back to the topic of retrieving a job through a services site for all people of the world. Anyone will be able to post for a job anywhere in the world for any job classification they're qualified for or position to be offered, with the acceptance of the employer to allow the individual to be trained for the position. Realize everyone will have a standard resume template to use within their file of a services database that can be changed or filled out to the liking of each person as time goes on. When you post looking for a job, your resume listing of your history of employment or schools of training, education, academic achievement record, this will be available to view from any interested employer looking for a candidate to fill their position. There will be authorization given to each business establishment to allow human resource personnel or so many people to have authorization to view education, academic achievement records, and of previous employment or current employment. Also of schooling attend in their records for hiring people to the A Services system. This will include any time anyone does any type of corrections that are longer than a week long, like serving time in a facility set forth by the government in law. This will show your attendance in life for each career choice attend and worked in a revolving record that will always be current. If a person is offered work in or from any government correction facility, jail, or prison, they will only be entitled to make $10 an hour according to the new world standard, where the minimum of what pay will be not less than $10 an hour. Also, if the person that is in the correction facility chooses to work, it will show up in their employment window of their records and will show a revolving record of what you or they have done for work and what your retirement has accumulated for a balance over time. There will be correction facilities general work number allotted to address all the different jobs to the government correction facilities or departments of corrections for the people that fall within this category. This will be the world standard for paying out all who are doing time for their actions of $10 an hour, whenever logged into the system for work. Once a court has sentenced whoever to time, they will have to serve it in part of the process of the courts to annotate the time from the starting date till the time of the sentence has been fulfilled. Each person will be kept track of through the Ace Services Ace of Spades department. All that are active doing sentences from around the world will have a standard job rate of pay of $10 an hour. All will be authorized from any person doing whatever from any correction facility at the facilities at the officer's discretion with who will do whatever if it allows jobs to be worked. The common structure of some of the basic crimes I will list. For instance, if a person is charged with a death of another, the max sentence penalty or jail time for any single death charge will not be more than 20 years to serve in prison or a total jail time of the offense. If it is a double homicide, they may get up to 40 years, and if there were a third victim that was killed, that person may never step foot out into society ever again and will have to serve a life sentence in prison until they are bedridden. This is when they may go to a care facility. There will no longer be a death penalty in the world. When these death cases go to court, there will be 3 options for the jury to select from. One will be 20-year sentence. The next option will say 10-year sentence. And the third option will be, I feel the crime warrants no corrections, and I feel the individual should be set free. If the person is an accessory to murder, their max sentence would be 10 years and stand in the same trial to make the decision by the jury. The next crime I will state is meth or crystal meth, and of drugs of this sort will be a 7-year sentence if you have more than 3.5 grams in your possession, where a jury will decide your fate. On a second offense, the penalty may be double or 14 years. You could be facing by the people. And if you had received a third charge of having meth in your possession of 3.5 grams, you could get up to 20-year sentence for, as an individual, will be considered as a dealer. Meth destroys the mental ability and function according to society that allows a person to act out irrationally. On rape cases, it must show a struggle from one who says they have been raped under the age of 15 years of age without the consent of a parent of said child. Rape charges will receive 14 years for a max sentence of a first-time offender decided by a jury. A second offense, or if a person raped multiple women, they will get up to 20 years. A third different offense addressed to the court could send the rapist away in prison for life. Now for sexual harassment and sexual assault. If there is no sexual penetration, the sexual harassment and sexual assault will be handled by videos to understand what you can or can't do in the situation of a sexual assault case by the Justifier's Office. Some sexual assault cases may have common service to commit to for a short while. If a sexual harassment or assault happens 3 different times within 7 years that has been addressed to the Justifier's Office, that person will have to automatically do 1 year in prison for 3 different occasions reported as the fault. For assault to someone that causes bodily harm to an individual, better hope that that individual doesn't sustain medical board disability because of the injuries from the assault, because they may face 5 years in prison doing harm from an injury from a jury, as many have wages garnished for their life to pay for the victim of the medical condition they had caused. The action at the Justifier Office will put the file on hold till after medical proceedings are finished in 1 year, give or take a month. Basic assault cases will be handled by the Justifier's standard layout for procedures to operate by. Theft will consist of 1st to 5th degree for a charge. 5th degree will be miscellaneous theft of $10 or less. 4th degree theft will be $10.01 to $100 in theft. 3rd degree theft will be $100.01 to $500 if it's a proven theft attempt. A 2nd degree theft will consist of $501 to $10,000 in theft. A 1st degree theft will consist of $10,000.01 and up. For 5th degree theft, you will have to watch a video for the first offense that is about an hour long. And if it was your child under 18 years of age, both parents will be required to watch the video. Also, if a child is under the age of 12 years old, the parent will also receive the charge under their record in the system showing the child's name that did the crime. Under the age of 12, you will have to pay for the consequences of your child. At the age of 13 years old, the child will conform with the adult public on all crimes committed. The justifiers will put whatever action pending in each person's file of ACE services that needs to be fulfilled as a commitment. Fourth degree theft will get you a community service and a video to watch. Third degree theft will get you double the community service for every weekend for 6 months to a year, plus you will have to watch a video as well. Second degree theft will put you in front of a jury with the max of 3-year sentence if found guilty. First degree will give you a sentence of 10 years unless the amount of theft was over $1 million, then the max sentence could be as much as 20 years. The new laws for the people will be effective immediately after the people instate me as the leader of the world. All the people in prison will have to see if they have met the requirements of serve time compared to the new standards to see if they can be set free. All marijuana crimes and charges, also all cocaine crimes and charges against anyone sitting in prison or jail will be set free. Also, anyone holds a gathering charge will be set free. And for all the ones released from prison, I want the government of the world to immediately pay the ex-convicts a minimum of $1,500 in each country's currency to be paid monthly until the New World Order is up and running in January 2027. One last request is to release all the prisoners of war through the world, and that includes terrorists. Walter Davis. Terrorists, isn't that extreme? Not really, Walter. There will be no need to rise up against anyone due to fair and equal justice that will be for all the world. When you look at law officers, they will have the right to write any ticket by law, and you will have to pay it without taking it to court. You may pay the ticket at the time you received it. All tickets will be official when written up by a law officer. You can contest any ticket to the justifier's office if you feel it wasn't fair justice. Drug testing from businesses and establishments will not happen anymore. This is unfair for the workers not to be able to choose to use drugs on their recreational or personal time. No drugs should be used during any work hours across the world unless authorized by the employer. Anyone who takes drugs have a little bit of different effect on how they can work and communicate. So for the new standard, I will make a 3-check test for sobriety to be administered at any time. This can be done by any officer or any manager that feels an individual is inadequate, where they may be challenge the individual to do a sobriety test before any actions can be taken. The testing will consist of walking a 20-foot straight line. If the individual did fine on the walking, then you may have them recite the alphabet. If the person did fine on the alphabet, then you can have the count have them to count backwards from 100. All who passes the test is fine to work, and no further testing will be done on that individual and it will be case closed. Now, if a person fails any one of the 3 tests administered, they must be sent home from work. The employee can be written up for the occurrence, and if they receive 2 write-ups before the 3rd time within a year, that employer will have full rights to fire that individual. On the 3rd time, being intoxicated or on drugs, the employer will request you to take a urinalysis test immediately to see if any drugs are in your system. And if you show up with any drugs in your system, that will show you as a fault. The employer would have full right to fire the individual, and the individual would have no right to defend himself unless a manager didn't like you and lied about not being capable to perform your job and falsely sent you home when you had passed the sobriety test given. What I would say to this is stop it before it goes to a second attempt and to send you home from work, where you will have to gather the witnesses which watched you do the sobriety test and make a complaint to ACE Services. The justifiers will look into all witnesses to report it and the one that sent you home to see if there is any malpractice. If the manager is at fault, he or she will get a strike against his or her performance record as well for the whole chain of command. On that first line leader, he or she can't receive more than 3 complaints of fault against the performance record in a 3-year time frame. Same way as if an officer of the law who pulls you over and believes you are incapable to drive, but if you pass all 3 areas of the sobriety test, the officer must let you go. Certain high-profile jobs will have to be monitored with a drug test, like airline pilots and surgical doctors. If an accident occurs during work, a blood test can be requested if the employer feels it's necessary. Guns will be authorized for people to carry on them in public as long as it's not an assault weapon across the world. All people will have to be authorized through ACE Services to own weapons. If anyone has an assault charge on their criminal record, they will not be authorized to own any weapons until 7 years have passed from your last offense, and then depending on the assault, you may or may not be authorized to own weapons again. The people with their weapons will not be authorized to bring them inside of schools, banks, courthouses, hospitals, public transportation, or airline transportation. When you go to the airport, they will have to check in your firearm in order to get on the flight. The age allowed to carry will be open at 18 years. For hunting, a youth can start at the age of 13, accompanied by an adult. A standard fishing license will be required at 18 years of age and will be a set standard of $25 a year to fish anywhere across the world. Hunting license will be set at $50 a year for all controlling game by the DNR, Department of Natural Resources, across the world. In order to get a fishing or hunting license, you will have to go to ACE Services, Ace of Spades department, and watch a 1-hour video and take a test. You will only be required to do this once in a life. Now, as far as smoking in the world, it will have to be adopted into our society as equal for all. So I say we will all have all public places to have both smoking and non-smoking available to the public. Airlines will have to offer smoking on their flights of any flights over 2 hours. Now, we live like we do because of some of these prissy people out there in the world that only think for themselves and not for what's fair for others. I say if you're a non-smoker, you walk away from the smoke if you don't like it. All drinking establishments around the world now can have smoking indoors. The businesses will maybe have to put better ventilation systems in their establishments. Some of these policies I have listed will be effective immediately or when the New World Order is set up in 2027. Now I will continue with how easy it is to try and get a job in the world system of ACE Services. So for example, a person's job on ACE Services site will be listed for the job classification as a general labor. That job number in the system, let's say, is listed as 1,389 for that job recognition number on the list. Now let's say the local factory was looking for some assembly positions to be filled. The human resource personnel will have to access or look for employment to fill the position of need at their fingertips behind the ACE Services site. In the work screen for all licensed businesses to use, where there is an icon next to the looking for jobs on the top of the home page next to the search window. This will be used for authorized people in the system to have the accessibility to use to find, locate people for employment for any establishment. If you do not have authorization to search for employees, you will not be able to use this icon. The human resource personnel, when on the site, will click on or select the icon designated to find employment and will call this icon job availability. After clicking on the job availability icon, there will be a small window that will pop up allowing you to request locations from a list of icon commands from a small window of counties, state, countries that you may choose to look as a desire to fulfill your needs for employment. Understand that your place of business or where you are established will be a constant for when you select a county or the appropriate state, country you are in. So if you select county, it will show the list of counties for the state you're located in and country on top of the list. And just like state, it will bring all the states up for the country that you're in. Where you will look, where you will have to do for the search is select a little circle next to the appropriate site you would like to look for candidates for whatever classification that is needed to be filled. The small circle to select on the right side of the county, state, countries will be for all authorized personnel to be able to use for the selection within the ACE Services program. In order to find the candidates from around the world, you will have to enter the job classification or classifications of liking. For instance, if you were to fill a position that has to have a certain qualification, you would pick from the precise job number from all the jobs listed for the world. Also, when that window pops up, it will also give you an icon to select from the jobs list for you to look up whatever job you need for the search engine inside the ACE Services database system. When selecting the job list from within the pop-up window, it will show a complete list of all jobs in the world. If you do not wish to scroll through looking for proper job description, you can type in the window given and it will show a list from whatever you have typed for a job within the list. Of course, the list will be broken up into sections, like listing all the positions of what classifications you would like to pick that doesn't require schooling beyond 12th grade. The medical jobs, construction jobs, the government jobs, and then technical jobs, and then trademark jobs, and so forth, to make it easier to scan through all the different types of jobs. The list will show the categories in alphabetical order, and inside of each category will be an alphabetical order. The list of jobs may be 500 numbers to allot it for accessibility in the medical field. There may be 150 different types of jobs within the list. This is for there will be new. So if there's new job classifications to be added, one thing for sure is that the number given for whatever job when established in the ACE service system will always stay the same. But if new jobs are added to the list, the new jobs will just be placed at the bottom of the category that it will fall within, and will be in sequence with the number, but not alphabetically, unless you search alphabetically. Now, if the human resource personnel or authorized person was tasked to find more help for the business or factory, he or she will go to the employer site and select job availability icon and type in the job number that is allotted in the window on the site for jobs. An example, we'll use 1389 as a general labor for a job classification needed. After the number has been entered, you can select the location or multiple locations to search for people that may want to work for you. This will bring up all who are available to in whatever search you do. And this brings up another window of a list of availability to fill whatever position. The ones that have access to looking for jobs can click on or select each person on the list, and it will open up like any other person you would click on within the system, where it will have a small circle select if you would like, for you can save whatever individual to another list for your records. Also, this time when the authorized person opens up the basic information up on the person from the search list, will show two extra icons to choose from. One will be an icon to bring up the selected individual's resume. It will show inside the resume skill qualifications filled out by the one in search for the job. As for the jobs worked, will be kept current and updated information on what jobs were worked and dates that were worked from each individual, and will automatically be kept track of as time revolves for each person's record. It will be current and correct on all, but won't show the income from the previous job work to the potential hirer. It will only show a record of employment and time fulfilled in each venture in life. It may take many pages to explain your resume of liking, so there will be an extension of the resume page to where it will be able to scroll, to where you will be able to scroll up or down on it to view it, and it can grow to handle whatever needs to be addressed for the person's skills and abilities. This will automatically add to the page to show for each person within the system. The second extra icon is to view education, academic, and achievement that are on file of the one who is seeking employment. Once you select the education icon, it will list all the schooling on the individual from the oldest to the current, where it will allow you to scroll up or down to be able to view all the diplomas, certificates of schooling, education, grade school, middle school, high school, trade schools, and certifications of certificates. Colleges and any schooling learning can and will be added as desired, unless that individual does not want to have miscellaneous schooling in their files, which would have to be added or taken out at the Ace of Spades department. All tests for each year of schooling and all progress tests will be permanent in all records. On the top of the education page will give you a choice to open up to other areas. One of academic icon to show different sports and activities that had been committed to. The last one is academic icon for achievements and awards achieved in life. This would also show any title held while in competition, like sports, educational contests, hobbyists, awards, and certificates of achievement on each person that applies for employment. If you would like to pull multiple employment listings at once, all you would have to do is place in the window for your job number and connect all the job search numbers in sequence with a dash to separate the job numbers from each. For example, is 1389-2190-603 for whatever you pull up in search for all that the list everyone looking for the job within the qualifications you had entered to be combined in the list just by clicking on the circle that was shaded in when it was selected. But now when you click on it again, it will disappear from the list. And each page listing pulled up will give an option to combine the list to another file or list when you select that option. The authorized people from each establishment in the world will be able to search for jobs in the ACE Services system to see all that is available. They can look through all the candidates looking for employment and can choose who they want to contact through message, email, or they can call them to set up an arrangement to meet. Or they can set up interview time to be contacted by phone or providing information about the employer. There will be a 28-day month calendar allotted for the future for all the people of the world for the days in a month, except for December. We'll have 29 days. And there will be 13 months in a year to equal 365 days a year for when the ACE Services World Order is up and working. Also, every 4 years in December, there will be one extra day added to the yearly calendar to keep the seasons in line. December will have 30 days every 4 years, or considered leap year, and the days of the week will always stay in order, with Monday being the first day of the week, and never skip any days. For Sundays are always to be true for the people to respect this day in holiness. Midnight of the start of the first day of the week, Monday or after Sunday night, will be reset to new hours for each day for it to correct the celestial timing of God's holy system, or holy city in heaven, of how it revolves each day. So if it was midnight on Sunday or the beginning of Monday, it will be moved 2 hours back to 10 p.m. Sunday night, or the new time will show midnight Monday morning if you are used to eating at 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. for your main meals. Now you may consider eating at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. of the new standard for time in a day. Realize in the morning, if it gets light at 6 a.m., it will now be 4 a.m. when it will be light out for the new time. There will be an overlay of the previous calendar, where the days will be marked accordingly with the new days that fall within the old calendar to see what your special occasion will fall on, like birthdays and anniversaries. Now back to what a registered nurse will be doing in this new world. Figure on assumption and research that a registered nurse figured from working in the United States will make on an average $45,000 a year working with the new standard of 6 hours a day, 5 days a week for 1,500 hours a year, making $30 an hour for starting. Now figure a registered nurse will need a bachelor's degree that will take about 4 years of the individual's life to complete. We will say the individual starts college right after finishing up high school at 18. Their age to commit to working would be 22 after the completion of schooling. When the nurse finds their job at one of the medical facilities around the world, where the job is established at a certain rate of pay in the A-Services database, will automatically pay equally the same throughout the world for each position worked for the government. All jobs will be established for a rate of pay from an average from across the United States, same jobs for rate of pay. After the world order goes into effect, you could search in Germany for the same job within the government if you like. This job will be the same pay from anywhere in the world. There will be a percentage rate of 0.0205959,100 added to the wages of each next revolving year of whatever job position held by the government workers. For instance, I will use numbers that I had already went through and calculated out for 39 years of working in the government of what you would make as a nurse or a doctor as an example to be based off of. There are 24 pages that you can look at that show counts for 39 years of work. If you desire to work that long, you will get your second pension at the age of 58. If the person feels like retiring at that time, they may do so with ease, knowing you will get a pension for life. In the new world, you're only required to work 30 hours a week and 6 hours a day. There will not be an incentive for working a second or third or fourth shifts. All shifts and weekend duties will be of regular pay unless you work past 6 hours for any day working or past 30 hours for a 5-day week. The calculations are of 3 different tiers that will get paid out at a glance through the medical fields and what will be granted for all government workers, but is only tiered in the medical field as an incentive. A nurse will make $45,000 a year, 1,500 hours, working 1,500 hours in a Tier 3 establishment. In this example, where he or she will be making $90,000 a year after 34 years of work. When you started as a registered nurse, it was $30 an hour, and after the 34th year, you'll be making $60 an hour. That is when it caps out of a double for your wages from when you had started. It will work equally the same for all people that are employed through the government. I used for an example of the cost of living for the population size of 150 to 200,000 people for what you would get paid through the government to just survive off of, that would be about $2,600 to live off of per month, and that would equal $33,800 a year to be added to what you would make for the month or year to your income. So if you were single without kids, you would be making $78,800 as a registered nurse for your first year. Let's say for the next example, you're around 40 years of age and you have been working for about 18, 19 years for a tier 1 establishment, and your first pension coming in every month, you have a child that's about 10 years old. You would make $500 a month for your child credit, and the cost of living for your community of $2,600 a month. At 40 years old, you'll be making $133,408 a year. That's $33,800 for cost of living, $6,500 for child credit, and your first pension for life will be $15,168 per year. And for wages, you'll be making $51.96 per hour, or making $77,940 for the year, working $1,500 as a tier 1 in pay. The same for the next example I had just explained, but you will be working for a tier 3 medical facility or a hospital all your life to see what the difference would be. Well, at the age 40, you would be making, if you had worked for 18, 19 years for a tier 3 establishment, is $64,950 or $43.30 an hour. Your first pension, being of a tier 3 all your life, will equal $12,640 a year, or $243.08 a month for life. Child credit will be $6,500 a year, along with having the cost of living of $33,800. Your total income would be $117,890, a difference of $15,518 a year for the same time worked. Just because your facility or establishment didn't get as high of standards as far as receiving complaints are doing wrong on different procedures that are implemented by the people and enforced by the ACE services justifiers. Everyone will have the same starting wage, whatever job listing that ACE service offers. I'll say being in the medical field of a tier 2 bracket will give you 10% more income, and being in a tier 1 bracket will give you an extra 20% more of your wage, as long as your tier 1 or tier 2 will make more money for having higher standards with less complaints. I will show now the difference would be from tier 1 versus tier 3 in comparison of retirement at the age of 62. We'll say both have the same cost of living a year, and there is no child credit, just your 2 pensions for retirement. The cost of living, so for a tier 1 is $81,228, and for a tier 3 is $73,324, a difference of $7,904 a year less for retirement. The system will keep it fair for all as complaints that come in, and they will be added to whichever establishment affect whatever their tier 1 or tier 2. The tier brackets are divided up evenly of the complaints that come in separately, equally 33% per tier change daily due to complaints that come into the justifier's office.